Remember that time Bruce Lee twirled nunchucks in a Roman alley and accidentally created a moral panic that got the weapon banned in 7 countries? In 1972, The Way of the Dragon hit theaters, and Lee became the first major Asian star to write, direct, and star in his own film. The story follows a country boy who goes to Rome and saves his cousin's restaurant from Italian mobsters, and it became Hong Kong's highest-grossing film ever. It introduced the world to Chuck Norris, turned Nunchaku into contraband, and proved Lee didn't need Hollywood. But behind the yellow jumpsuit and Coliseum showdown, there's strange things about this movie most of us never knew. Today, we're counting down 15 weird facts about The Way of the Dragon. And stick around for number 1, because it involves a Hong Kong hotel room, a back injury, and 48 hours that changed martial arts cinema forever. And before we get started, please do tap that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it does help us out a lot. Now let's jump in with number 15. The food was real and it was rotting. The restaurant fight scenes look chaotic and slightly rushed for a reason. They took 6 full days to film in the middle of summer, and every plate of pasta, every bowl of soup, every prop meal on those tables was real food. No plastic replicas, no painted foam, actual cooked Italian food sitting under hot lights in a non-air conditioned set.
May I help you?
Eggs? Eggs?
By day 3, the smell was apparently unbearable. By day 5, multiple crew members were vomiting between takes. Lee pushed through because reshooting meant renting the location again, and the budget was already stretched thin. If you watch closely, some of the background extras are visibly holding their breath or turning away. That wasn't acting, that was survival. The decision to use real food came from Lee's obsession with authenticity. He wanted the restaurant to feel lived in and real. Mission accomplished. It just came with a biological hazard nobody planned for. Number 14. The production company was created just to fight the studios. Concord Production Inc. Sounds like it had been around for years, but Bruce Lee created it specifically and exclusively for The Way of the Dragon. Why? Because no Hong Kong studio would give him what he wanted: complete creative control. Lee had starred in The Big Boss and Fist of Fury for Golden Harvest, and both were massive hits. But he didn't write them, didn't direct them, and had limited input on fight choreography. When he pitched The Way of the Dragon, studios wanted script approval, final cut privileges, and casting control.
Movement number 4. Dragon seeks path.
Lee's response was to build his own production company, partner with Raymond Chow at Golden Harvest for distribution only, and maintain total ownership of the film. It was a power move that almost nobody in Hong Kong cinema had attempted at that level. Concord Production gave Lee everything he wanted. And when the film became Hong Kong's highest-grossing movie ever, it proved he was right to bet on himself. Number 13. The Italian mob actors thought they were making a comedy. Those over-the-top gangster performances weren't accidental. The Italian actors hired to play the restaurant thugs didn't speak English, and were told through a translator that this was a comedy film. They were specifically instructed to be as exaggerated and ridiculous as possible. Bruce Lee watched the dailies, saw what was happening, and loved it. The language barrier had accidentally created the exact tone he wanted: menacing but absurd, threatening but cartoonish. It made the villains feel dismissible, which made Lee's character seem even calmer and more dangerous by contrast. The head mobster's wild hand gestures, the sneering facial expressions, the theatrical line delivery, all of it came from actors playing for laughs in what they thought was a martial arts parody. Lee kept every frame. And honestly, it's one of the reasons the film works. The tonal contrast between the bumbling gangsters and Lee's stone-faced intensity creates the tension that drives the whole story. Number 12, the yellow tracksuit started as a Lakers warm-up. That iconic yellow jumpsuit Bruce Lee wears didn't come from a costume designer or a wardrobe department. It started as a gift from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of Lee's closest friends and martial arts students. Abdul-Jabbar gave Lee a Los Angeles Lakers warm-up suit, the classic gold and purple. Lee liked the look but wanted something simpler and more striking. So he sat down at a sewing machine, removed the purple accents, modified the fit, and added the black stripes himself. No professional tailor, no costume department. Bruce Lee, action star and director, hand-sewing his own wardrobe between takes. The yellow tracksuit became one of the most recognizable costumes in martial arts cinema. It showed up again in Game of Death, became a Halloween staple, and got homaged in everything from Kill Bill to internet memes. And it all started because an NBA legend gave his friend some Lakers gear, and Lee decided to customize it himself. Number 11, the film destroyed Bruce Lee's previous record in under 3 weeks. The Way of the Dragon opened in Hong Kong and immediately started breaking records, not just any records, Bruce Lee's own records. His previous film, Fist of Fury, had been a massive hit and held the Hong Kong box office crown. The Way of the Dragon dethroned it in exactly 19 days. Less than 3 weeks, and Lee had beaten himself. The record stood for 11 years. No other Hong Kong film outgrossed The Way of the Dragon until 1983. Not a single one. What makes this even more impressive is that Lee was competing against his own legend. Audiences loved Fist of Fury, but when they saw what he could do with complete creative control, they showed up in even bigger numbers. The film proved that Bruce Lee, the director, was just as powerful as Bruce Lee, the star. Number 10, the translator character wasn't actually Chinese. Uncle Wang, the kindly Chinese restaurant owner and translator character, was played by a Korean actor who didn't speak a word of Mandarin.
You must know, I've got nothing. I've worked hard all of my life, and I've got nothing at all to show for it.
Every single line he delivers in Chinese was learned phonetically, syllable by syllable, with no understanding of what he was actually saying. Then in post-production, all of his dialogue was dubbed over by a native Mandarin speaker anyway, standard practice in Hong Kong cinema at the time, but it raises a funny question. Why cast someone who can't speak the language when you're dubbing everyone regardless? The answer is simple: budget and availability. Lee needed actors fast, and this particular performer had the right look and physical presence. Language became irrelevant once dubbing was on the table. It's one of those delightful Hong Kong film industry shortcuts that makes perfect sense and no sense at the same time. And unless someone told you, you'd never know. The performance feels completely natural. Number 9. Bruce Lee's screams broke the audio equipment, sort of. When test audiences first watched The Way of the Dragon, multiple people complained that the sound system was malfunctioning. The screams during the fight scenes were distorting, peaking, sounding blown out. The sound engineers checked the equipment. Everything was fine. The problem wasn't technical failure, it was Bruce Lee. Lee's Ki screams, those sharp explosive vocalizations during strikes, were so loud and so piercing that they were clipping the audio. The microphones were capturing frequencies at levels they weren't designed to handle. Human vocal cords were exceeding the tolerances of professional recording equipment. The solution? Lower Lee's screams in the mix during post-production. They literally had to turn him down because his natural voice was too powerful for the technology. It's one of those problems that only happens when someone is so physically intense that they break the tools designed to capture normal human performance. Lee wasn't just acting like a martial artist. He was generating sound at superhuman levels. Okay, we're halfway through this list, so we're going to pause here because I need to know. Have you ever tried to recreate a Bruce Lee move and immediately regretted it? Hit that like button and tell us in the comments which Bruce Lee film is your all-time favorite. All right, let's get back to Rome with number 8. Number 8, the original title was stolen by another film. Bruce Lee originally wrote this script in 1970 under the title The Chinese Boxer. It was meant to be his directorial debut, his statement film, the project that would prove he could do everything. Then, in 1970, a Hong Kong film called The Chinese Boxer was released. Completely different story, different director, but the same title. And it came out first. Lee had to scrap the name entirely and rework parts of the script to distance his project from the other film. What emerged was The Way of the Dragon, with a new title, some story adjustments, and a 2-year delay while Lee fulfilled his contracts for The Big Boss and Fist of Fury. The title theft was partly just bad luck and partly the chaotic nature of Hong Kong cinema in the early 70s, where ideas moved fast and intellectual property protections were virtually non-existent. Someone heard Lee was planning something called The Chinese Boxer, rushed a film into production, and beat him to market. It's one of those sliding door moments. If Lee had released his version in 1970 as planned, his entire career trajectory might have been different. No Golden Harvest films, no massive stardom before directing, just an untested actor-director making a low-budget indie film. The delay might have actually saved the project. Number 7. The restaurant extras were real diners who had no idea. Not all of the background actors in the restaurant scenes were hired extras. Some of them were actual customers eating actual meals, who suddenly found themselves surrounded by cameras, stuntmen, and Bruce Lee destroying furniture. Lee used guerrilla filmmaking tactics throughout the shoot, especially in Rome where permits were expensive and time-consuming. The crew would set up quickly, shoot fast, and move before anyone could shut them down. In the restaurant, this meant filming around real diners. Some were asked to stay and became impromptu extras. Others just happened to be there and ended up on camera. If you watch those scenes closely, you can spot the confused reactions. The people looking directly at the camera, the diners who seem genuinely startled by the action. Those aren't actors breaking character. Those are people who ordered pasta and accidentally ended up in a kung fu movie. It adds an authenticity to the chaos that you can't fake with professional extras. The restaurant feels real because parts of it were real, just with more nunchucks than the average Italian dining experience. Number 6. Bruce Lee choreographed Chuck Norris to win until the studio panicked. The Coliseum fight is one of the most famous martial arts duels ever filmed, and in Bruce Lee's original choreography, Chuck Norris was winning for most of it. Lee designed the fight to showcase Norris's karate skills, to make him look like a legitimate threat, to build tension by showing his character struggling against a superior opponent. It was a respectful, ego-free approach to fight choreography. Lee was secure enough to let the villain dominate. Then studio executives saw the rough cut and panicked. The star of the movie, the guy audiences paid to see, was losing for 6 straight minutes. They demanded changes. They wanted Lee to look more dominant, to take control earlier, to make the victory seem inevitable. Lee compromised. He reshot some sequences to make the fight more balanced, but he kept the core structure. Norris still gets the upper hand multiple times. Lee's character still struggles. The final victory still feels earned rather than effortless. It's a testament to Lee's philosophy as a martial artist and filmmaker. Real fights aren't one-sided. Real victories require real struggle. And showcasing your opponent's skill makes your own skill more impressive, not less. Number 5. The Kitten scene was completely unscripted. In the opening minutes of the film, Bruce Lee's character feeds a stray kitten in a Roman alleyway. It's a small moment, maybe 20 seconds, but it tells you everything about who this character is. Gentle, observant, compassionate. A man who notices small suffering and does something about it. None of it was in the script. A stray kitten wandered onto set during filming. Lee noticed it, asked the crew to stop, and started feeding it scraps from the prop food. The crew thought he was taking a break. Then Lee told the cinematographer to start rolling. He built an entire character-defining moment around an animal that accidentally showed up. No planning, no storyboards, just instinct. And it's one of the most memorable moments in the film because it feels so genuine. Lee could have shooed the kitten away and stayed on schedule. Instead, he saw an opportunity to show softness before the violence, to humanize his character before the action started. That kind of directorial instinct can't be taught. You either see those moments or you don't. Number 4. The Nunchaku scenes created a global black market. The Way of the Dragon didn't just make nunchucks famous, it made them illegal. After the film's release, multiple countries including the UK, Germany, Norway, Canada, and several US states banned nunchaku entirely. The weapon was classified as a prohibited offensive weapon, meaning ownership could result in arrest and prosecution. The reasoning was that the film glamorized a dangerous weapon and inspired copycat violence. Teenagers were buying cheap nunchucks, swinging them around and injuring themselves and others. Emergency rooms started seeing nunchuck-related injuries. Authorities responded with blanket bans. This created a thriving black market. People smuggled nunchucks across borders, sold them out of car trunks, and manufactured homemade versions. A weapon that had been a relatively obscure martial arts training tool became contraband because one film made it look cool. Bruce Lee probably didn't set out to create an international moral panic. He just wanted to showcase a weapon he was incredibly skilled with. But the cultural impact was so massive that governments felt compelled to intervene. Even today, decades later, nunchucks remain illegal in some jurisdictions, all because Bruce Lee twirled them in a back alley and made it look effortless. Number 3. Chuck Norris was broke and unknown. Before The Way of the Dragon, Chuck Norris was teaching karate classes in Los Angeles and struggling to pay rent. He had a legitimate martial arts background, multiple championship titles, and exactly 0 film credits. Bruce Lee personally called him, explained the project, and offered him the role of Colt, the final boss villain. There was one problem. Norris couldn't afford a plane ticket to Rome. Lee paid for everything. The flight, the hotel, the meals, all of it. He wanted Norris specifically because he knew Norris could actually fight, and he needed someone who could make the Coliseum duel look real. Norris showed up in Rome, filmed the fight, and went home thinking it was a fun side project. Then the film exploded. Suddenly, Chuck Norris was an international action star. He went from teaching strip mall karate to starring in his own films within 2 years. That single phone call from Bruce Lee changed his entire life. And Lee didn't have to do it. He could have cast any number of martial artists, but he saw something in Norris and went out of his way to make it happen. It's one of those beautiful moments where one person's generosity creates another person's entire career. Norris has said in multiple interviews that he owes everything to Bruce Lee, and he's not exaggerating. Number 2, the Coliseum was filmed guerrilla style while running from police. The final fight scene in the Roman Coliseum is one of the most iconic moments in martial arts cinema. 2 warriors, ancient stone, raw combat. It looks mythic, timeless, perfect. It was also completely illegal. Bruce Lee and his crew did not have permits to film inside the Coliseum. They showed up at dawn with cameras, moved fast, and shot as much as they could before authorities noticed. Italian police showed up multiple times and chased them away. The crew would pack up, leave, wait a few hours, and come back. They did this over several days, grabbing footage in short bursts, always one step ahead of shutdown. Some of the wide shots were filmed from outside the Coliseum using telephoto lenses because they couldn't risk going back inside. The close-ups were shot quickly during brief windows of access. The result is a sequence that feels grand and epic, but was actually created through sheer guerrilla determination. Lee wanted that location because nowhere else in the world carried the same weight. 2,000 years of history, gladiators, empire, all of it baked into the stone. So he ignored the rules, dodged the cops, and got the footage anyway. That kind of reckless commitment to vision is what separated Lee from other filmmakers. He wasn't going to let permits and paperwork stop him from making the exact movie he wanted. Number 1, Bruce Lee wrote the entire script in 48 hours with a broken back. Here's the story most people don't know. In 1971, Bruce Lee injured his back during training. Not a minor tweak. A serious spinal injury that left him bedridden and in constant pain. Doctors told him to rest, avoid stress, and definitely don't try to work. Lee was stuck in a Hong Kong hotel room, unable to train, unable to film, going stir crazy. So he started writing. He had the idea for The Way of the Dragon already sketched out in his mind from the 1970 version, but now he rewrote the entire thing from scratch. 48 hours, 2 full days and nights, writing through pain, fueled by frustration and creative desperation. The entire script, front to back, completed while he could barely sit upright. The injury forced him to slow down and focus. He couldn't punch, couldn't kick, couldn't move the way he wanted. So he channeled everything into the screenplay. Every fight sequence, every character moment, every piece of dialogue. When he recovered, he handed the script to Raymond Chow at Golden Harvest and said, "This is what we're making." Chow read it and gave him the green light. That script, written in agony in a hotel room, became the blueprint for Hong Kong's highest-grossing film. It launched Chuck Norris, showcased Lee's directorial vision, and proved to Hollywood that he didn't need their studios, their notes, or their approval. A back injury that could have ended his career instead became the catalyst for his greatest creative achievement. Bruce Lee turned physical limitation into artistic freedom, and he did it in 2 days. And there you have it. From guerrilla filmmaking in ancient Rome to a script written through spinal pain, The Way of the Dragon was so much more than a martial arts movie. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you're subscribed for more weird facts from the films that defined a generation. And remember, sometimes your limitations become your greatest creative fuel. Thanks for watching. This is Remember That Time, and we'll see you in the next one.